Okay, let's unpack this. Imagine, just for a second, a single mind. Someone who could paint maybe the most enigmatic smile in history.
Hmm.
And then, maybe before lunch, design a prototype for a helicopter.
Right.
And then, I don't know, map the intricate workings of the human heart with astonishing accuracy.
Yeah.
All way before most people even thought about these things.
It's pretty mind-blowing when you put it like that.
Exactly. Today we're doing a deep dive into that very mind. We're talking, of course, about the unparalleled genius Leonardo da Vinci.
And what's truly fascinating here, I think, is how his brilliance wasn't, confined to just one box. He didn't just excel, he fundamentally redefined things.
Right.
He transcended those traditional boundaries we put up between art, science, engineering. Our sources today, including some really rich excerpts from Leonardo da Vinci, Renaissance master of art and science, they vividly illustrate how he just shattered those categories,
Yeah.
pushing the very limits of human understanding in ways that honestly still profoundly resonate with us centuries later. His thousands of notebook pages, filled with that mirror script.
Backwards writing.
Exactly. Observations, designs. They're just a testament to a mind that saw absolutely no artificial divisions between fields of knowledge. It was all connected for him.
Absolutely. So our mission for you today is really to reveal that interconnected brilliance. We're not just talking about Leonardo, the celebrated artist,
No, much more.
but also the pioneering scientist, the visionary inventor, and the deep-thinking philosopher who truly believed everything in the universe was profoundly linked. We're going to try and peel back some layers of myth, maybe,
Yeah, get to the real contributions.
and reveal the concrete stuff, the surprising facts, and just the sheer relentless curiosity that drove him. So yeah, prepare for some serious aha moments as we uncover the seeds of a true polymath.
Sounds great. Where do we start?
So let's start right at the very beginning, lay the groundwork for this truly extraordinary life. Leonardo was born in 1452 in this picturesque Tuscan hill town, Vinci, which is, of course, where he gets his famous name, Da Vinci. Literally, from Vinci.
Simple enough.
Yeah. But his start in life was, well, pretty unconventional for someone who becomes such a towering figure. He was born illegitimate.
Mm-hmm. Which was a significant thing back then.
Definitely. His father was a successful Florentine notary, Piero da Vinci, but his mother was a peasant woman named Caterina.
Okay.
And this unconventional beginning, it meant he didn't get the typical formal education. The kind of a legitimate kid of his social standing might have expected.
No Latin school, studying the classics.
Exactly. He wasn't sent off for that. Yet despite lacking that structured schooling, what just shines through from his earliest years is this, insatiable curiosity.
You see it in the notebooks later, right? That constant questioning.
Totally. An intense, self-driven passion for learning. He wasn't stuck in rigid classrooms. Instead, nature became his main teacher. His most profound classroom, really.
That's a lovely way to put it.
We have accounts, even from his own writings, describing his childhood fascination with just observing the natural world.
Like what specifically?
Like how water sculpted riverbeds, the really intricate mechanics of how birds fly.
Oh, the flying obsession started early.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
The growth patterns of plants, the subtle shifts of light across a landscape, this direct empirical observation of phenomena that was truly his first and most enduring teacher. It laid the groundwork for basically all his future scientific investigations and, of course, his art.
And that foundational immersion in nature, it was absolutely crucial because if we connect this to the bigger picture, like you said, it informed every single step he took later.
Makes sense.
This early observational practice, combined then with his formal artistic training, well, it created this unique intellectual crucible for him.
So when did the formal training start?
In the 1470s, when he was about maybe 18, young Leonardo moves to Florence.
Which is the place to be then, right? The heart of the Renaissance.
Absolutely, the vibrant, intellectual, artistic hub. And he gets apprenticed in the workshop of Andrea del Verrocchio.
Okay, Verrocchio. Big name.
Huge name. And this was a pivotal moment. It really shaped his whole approach. Because Verrocchio wasn't just a painter.
Right, he did sculpture too.
Sculpture, goldsmithing, bronze work, an incredibly skilled craftsman all around. His studio, his atelier, was one of the leading artistic hubs of its time, almost like a multidisciplinary design studio today.
Wow.
And it became Leonardo's crucible, a place where his immense talents could really be forged and refined through practical application.
So what skills did he pick up there specifically?
Well, the foundational stuff that would define his art. He learned the mathematical principles of perspective, mastering that illusion of depth on a flat surface.
Crucial for realism.
Totally. He studied anatomy, which was absolutely critical for depicting the human form realistically, learning to draw muscles, bones from observation, not just, copying formula.
Direct observation again.
Exactly. And he perfected light shadow techniques, what we call chiaroscuro.
Giving things volume and trauma.
Precisely. That allowed him to give volume, depth, dramatic intensity to his figures. And there's that famous, almost legendary anecdote from this time about Verrocchio's painting, The Baptism of Christ.
Ah, yes, the angel story. Tell us.
Right. The story goes, Leonardo, still the young apprentice, was tasked with painting one of the angel figures in the corner. And his angel was supposedly so exquisitely rendered, so superior in its delicate beauty and lifelike quality to his master's work, that Verrocchio was reputedly so humbled by his student's genius that he, laid down his brush and never painted again.
Wow. Probably exaggerated, but still.
Oh, almost certainly an artistic exaggeration, probably to highlight Leonardo's incredible talent early on. But it's a powerful illustration of his burgeoning artistic genius, an early sign his skill was already off the charts. So this unique blend, right, direct, almost scientific-level observation from his youth, combined with this rigorous artistic training, it created the perfect environment for his later unique interdisciplinary approach.
Bridging art and science from the start.
Exactly. It allowed him to seamlessly bridge those seemingly separate worlds. He wasn't just learning to paint, he was learning to understand the world.
To depict it better.
And even more, to conceptualize it differently. That was a profound difference from many of his contemporaries. He wanted to know why things looked the way they did.
Okay, so here's where it gets really interesting, I think. Because while Leonardo's completed artworks are maybe surprisingly few in number.
Yeah, considering how long he lived and worked.
Right. Especially when you think about his prolific output in other areas like the notebooks. But each completed painting, it's like a monumental landmark in art history.
Absolutely. Each one is significant.
They're not just paintings. They're packed with, unparalleled technical perfection, profound psychological depth, and these wildly innovative approaches that just redefined what art could even be.
He wasn't just making pretty pictures.
No way. He was pushing the very boundaries of visual representation, almost using art, maybe, as a kind of scientific experiment itself.
Indeed. And perhaps no work exemplifies this revolutionary approach more than the Mona Lisa.
The big one.
Undeniably the world's most famous painting, believed to depict Lisa Gherardini, wife of a Florentine merchant. But what makes it so revolutionary? Why does it still captivate us?
The smile, obviously, but there's more.
Oh, much more. It's the pinnacle of his signature technique, sfumato.
Okay, break down sfumato for us. Smoky.
Yeah, smoky is the literal translation, but it's more subtle. It isn't just a brushstroke, it's almost a philosophy of painting, really rooted in his deep optical studies.
Connecting to science again.
Always. Sfumato involves the soft, almost imperceptible blending of colors and tones, creating this hazy, soft quality. It blurs the contours, making it almost impossible to pinpoint exactly where one color ends and another begins.
How did he figure that out?
Well, his work with the camera obscura, observing how light diffuses and naturally blurs contours in real-world projection, that directly translated into his sfumato.
So he's trying to paint how we actually see.
Exactly. He understood that vision isn't about sharp, defined lines like in a drawing, but a softened, almost imperceptible blend. He then painstakingly recreated that on canvas to mirror human perception more accurately than any artist before him.
And that's what gives the Mona Lisa her smile.
Precisely. That technique is key to the legendary mysterious smile, the ambiguity of it, the way it seems to shift depending on where you focus your gaze.
Yeah, it really does.
It allows for endless viewer interpretation, which beautifully reflects Leonardo's deep interest in human psychology, the complexities of emotion. He wasn't just capturing a likeness, he was trying to capture an inner life, the essence of personality.
Plus, the way she looks right at you.
That direct eye contact, combined with that fantastical, distant, almost ethereal landscape behind her, it creates this unique sense of engagement and timelessness that just wasn't there in portraiture before.
So its significance. Huge, obviously.
Cannot be overstated. The Mona Lisa utterly transformed portraiture. Before Leo, portraits were often static, almost symbolic representations. Flat,
More like icons than people.
Right. But he managed to convey the inner world, the personality of the sitter. It marked a profound shift, really championing that Renaissance ideal of individualism.
And now it's, well, the painting.
Absolutely. Housed in the Louvre in Paris, millions of visitors, an iconic symbol in popular culture, a testament to its enduring power and the genius of its creator.
Okay, so from the subtle mystery of the Mona Lisa, let's shift gears to the grand drama of the Last Supper.
A completely different scale and feel.
Totally. This monumental fresco, it's in the refectory, the dining hall of the Santa Maria delle Grazie Monastery in Milan. And it depicts one of the most pivotal moments in Christian theology, Christ's last meal with his apostles.
Specifically, the moment he drops the bombshell.
Exactly. The moment he declares, "One of you will betray me." Pow! Now, Leonardo, always the innovator, sometimes maybe too much so.
Uh-oh. What did he do here?
Well, instead of using the traditional, incredibly durable fresco technique painting on wet plaster so the pigment gets absorbed, he experimented.
He didn't use fresco for a wall painting.
Nope. He used tempera and oil paints on a dry wall.
Why would he do that?
It was a bold move, definitely.
Yeah.
The idea was it would allow him more time for meticulous detail, for that slower, more subtle blending of colors and tones, kind of like the sfumato he achieved on panel paintings like the Mona Lisa.
Ah, trying to get that oil paint luminosity on a wall.
Precisely. Something traditional fresco couldn't really offer. However,
Yeah.
this experimental technique tragically and almost immediately caused the artwork to start deteriorating.
Oh no, that's why it looks the way it does today.
That's a huge part of it. It was a testament to his innovative spirit, his willingness to push boundaries, but also, yeah, a cautionary tale about exploring new methods without fully understanding the long-term material consequences.
Wow. But despite its fragile state, the power of that moment he captured.
It's truly breathtaking. It's the instant that revelation just shakes the very foundations of the group. And what's so brilliant is Leonardo's profound psychological mastery.
Each apostle reacting differently.
Totally distinct. Each apostle's facial expression, their body language, it
Yeah.
instantly conveys their shock, denial, confusion, sadness, anger, whatever it is. In response to this earth-shattering news, you can almost feel the ripple of emotion spreading through the room.
You see Peter reaching for a knife.
Right. Agitated Peter. Then the incredulous Thomas pointing upwards, or the sort of resigned, almost sorrowful John next to Christ.
And beyond that incredible psychological depth, the Last Supper is equally revolutionary in its composition, right? And its use of perspective.
Absolutely. Talk about that.
Well, Leonardo employed a technique known as one-point perspective. It was a cornerstone of Renaissance art. All the architectural lines in the painting, the ceiling coffers, the side walls, the floor tiles, they all converge towards a single vanishing point.
And where did he put that point?
Strategically placed precisely at Christ's head, right in the center.
Genius. So it focuses everything on him.
Exactly. This ingenious use of perspective doesn't just create an illusion of depth. It powerfully draws you, the viewer, directly into the scene. It makes you feel like you're part of that dramatic moment, almost like a silent witness.
It's not just a trick then. It serves the story.
Deeply thoughtful. It engages the audience emotionally and intellectually, immersing them in the narrative. The work stands as this monumental cornerstone of Renaissance art, emphasizing the human aspects of religious stories, moving away from the more stylized, abstract stuff that came before.
And as you mentioned, the damaged state because of his experiment.
Yeah, it's been a challenge for centuries. Numerous painstaking restorations have been needed just to preserve what we can see today. It really highlights that paradox of his genius, doesn't it?
How so?
His relentless drive to push the limits of his craft, sometimes with unforeseen consequences, but always with an eye toward a deeper understanding and a more profound depiction of reality.
Okay, let's keep going on this theme of understanding reality through art and science. Let's talk about the Vitruvian Man.
Ah, yes. The drawing everyone recognizes.
Right, it's everywhere. T-shirts, posters. But it's not just a cool drawing, is it? It's a profound statement, a synthesis of art, anatomy, mathematics, philosophy, all rolled into one.
Absolutely. It's this iconic drawing showing ideal human proportions based on the theories of the ancient Roman architect Vitruvius.
Who believed?
Vitruvius believed that the human body was basically a model of divine order and cosmic harmony, like a microcosm of the universe.
Okay, and Leonardo's drawing shows.
It features a human figure in two superimposed positions, one with arms and legs outstretched to fit precisely within a circle, and the other with arms and legs spread to fit within a square.
So the circle and the square thing isn't random.
Not at all. It profoundly emphasizes the mathematical harmony and symmetry of human anatomy, connecting the microcosm of the human body to the macrocosm of the universe. Vitruvius, for instance, proposed that a man's height equals his arm span.
A wingspan thing.
Right, and that the navel is the natural center of the body if you were to draw a circle around the figure. But Leonardo didn't just copy Vitruvius.
He had his own ideas.
He critiqued and corrected him based on his own empirical observations. He tested the theories against actual measurements, so it shows his own anatomical studies alongside ancient theories.
What's its significance, then, overall?
Immense. It stands as this powerful symbol of Leonardo's lifelong effort to connect art and science, to find universal truth through both empirical observation and mathematical rigor.
The two sides again.
Exactly. It perfectly reflects that core Renaissance humanist philosophy, man as the center of the universe. Not in an arrogant way, but believing the human body itself was this perfect, divinely proportioned creation in harmony with universal laws.
So it's like a summary of his anatomy work.
In many ways, yes, a visual summary of his extensive anatomical studies, showcasing his belief that beauty and truth could be found in the precise measurement and understanding of the human form, an understanding informed by both artistic observation and scientific rigor.
And as remarkable as these three masterpieces are, Mona Lisa, Last Supper, Vitruvian Man, they're really just the tip of the iceberg, aren't they? When we consider his overall artistic output and that relentless pursuit of perfection.
Definitely. There are other incredible works.
We have to mention things like Madonna of the Rocks.
Oh, beautiful. Two versions, both stunning.
With that ethereal light, that pioneering atmospheric perspective in the landscape, that feeling of intimacy and mystery, it really revolutionized religious art, putting these figures in a believable natural setting.
And the geology in the background is so carefully observed, too.
Right. Then there's the compelling Lady with an Ermine, another portrait demonstrating his mastery of capturing psychological depth in a living subject.
Cecilia Gallerani.
And the ermine itself. It's not just a pet, it's a symbol of purity, maybe, and a clever visual pun on her name.
Yes, the Greek word for ermine, gale, sounds like Gallerani. He loved wordplay.
And his ability to render that animal so realistically, the fur looks almost tangible. That's his anatomical studies paying off again.
Absolutely. And you have St. John the Baptist, a later work.
Very enigmatic. That smile again, the upward pointing finger, almost a spiritual cousin to the Mona Lisa in its mystery. It invites contemplation.
It really does. But here's an interesting paradox about his career, which you touched on earlier. Despite this incredible genius, a significant number of his projects famously remained unfinished.
Yeah, why was that? Was he just easily distracted?
It wasn't really a lack of talent or dedication. It seems to be often a direct result of his relentless perfectionism and just his vastly multifaceted interests.
He had too many ideas.
Kind of. He would often start a project, innovate like crazy, get completely absorbed in a new scientific inquiry or maybe an engineering challenge that captivated his mind.
And the painting gets left behind.
Exactly. In his pursuit of absolute perfection, or maybe just following the next intellectual problem, he might set aside the original work, sometimes leaving it incomplete for years, even decades.
Like the Sforza monument, the giant horse.
The perfect example. The colossal Sforza monument, a bronze equestrian statue of Francesco Sforza, planned for Milan. Leonardo labored on the massive clay model for over a decade.
Huge undertaking.
It would have been unprecedented in size and ambition, a horse almost 24 feet high, but the 70 tons of bronze needed for it were ultimately diverted to make cannons for a war.
Oh, practicalities intervened.
And then the clay model itself was later destroyed by invading French troops, used for target practice, tragically.
Wow, so it just never happened.
Never happened. It's a poignant example of how his pursuit of the grandest vision, combined with external circumstances and his own perfectionism, often meant that the journey, the process, was maybe more compelling to him than the final destination.
So what does this all mean for us, the audience, looking back at his art now?
It means every stroke, every detail, every nuanced expression in his completed works was a deliberate, meticulously considered choice. It reflects a mind that was constantly questioning, observing, pushing the boundaries of what was known and what could be depicted.
He wasn't just painting what he saw.
No, he was never content with simply replicating. He always sought to understand the why behind the what, even if that intense pursuit sometimes led to a project's temporary abandonment.
Okay, so that relentless curiosity, that need to understand why, that perfectly leads into his scientific side.
This raises a truly important question, doesn't it? How could one person excel so much in art, be so revolutionary there, and simultaneously be a groundbreaking scientist and inventor, operating like centuries ahead of his time in some areas?
It seems almost impossible.
The answer lies largely in his notebooks, his thousands upon thousands of pages of drawings and notes meticulously kept in his codices.
These notebooks are legendary.
They really are, and they're not just random sketches. They are this sprawling kind of unindexed intellectual landscape. They reveal the sheer breadth and depth of his scientific curiosity.
Written in that mirror script.
Mostly, yeah, from right to left. They cover basically everything. Human anatomy, optics, mechanics, hydraulics, botany, geology, military engineering, you name it.
Wow.
They are an absolute treasure trove, demonstrating this analytical mind that was constantly observing, experimenting, documenting, and theorizing about the natural world.
Okay, let's really deep dive into his anatomical studies then, because from what I understand, they are nothing short of revolutionary.
They absolutely were. Leonardo was among the very first artists and truly one of the first thinkers of his era to conduct pioneering dissections of human cadavers.
Which was a big deal back then, right?
Yeah.
Kind of taboo.
Incredibly taboo and challenging. This was the late 15th, early 16th century. It often required, shall we say, clandestine means to acquire bodies, as it definitely went against religious and societal norms.
So why did he do it? Was it just for his art?
His motivation wasn't just morbid curiosity, it was this burning desire to understand the human body from the inside out. Yes, partly for artistic representation, knowing the muscles makes for better figures, but also for pure scientific inquiry. He just wanted to know.
And the drawings themselves.
Breathtaking. In their precision and detail, they contain meticulously rendered depictions of muscles, bones, tendons, nerves, organs, revealing a profound understanding that just far surpassed the often crude and inaccurate medical knowledge of his contemporaries.
Can you give some examples?
Sure. He accurately drew the spine's curvature, observing its natural S-shape and the individual vertebrae, long before that was formally understood in medical texts.
Wow.
Even more remarkably, he observed and depicted the heart's four-chamber structure.
Really? People didn't know that then.
It wasn't common knowledge at all. He depicted its valves and even attempted to describe the flow of blood through it, knowledge that was extremely rare for his time. Many still held on to ancient, incorrect theories from Galen.
That's incredible. What else?
He meticulously studied the vocal cords, the process of aging, even the development of a fetus in the womb. Unprecedented detail.
So what was the impact of all this anatomical work? Did it change medicine right away?
Well, not directly during his lifetime. Because his notebooks, they remain largely unpublished and scattered for centuries after his death.
So the knowledge wasn't widely shared.
Exactly. But once they were discovered and studied, the impact was immense. His drawings profoundly inspired later anatomists and doctors, like Vesalius in the mid-16th century. They provided this unprecedented visual accuracy and a new paradigm for representing the human body.
So it marked a turning point eventually.
A definitive turning point, absolutely, in both artistic and scientific representation of the human body, moving away from generalized or idealized forms towards a precise empirical understanding based on seeing it for yourself.
And his scientific curiosity, it didn't stop with the body, right? It went into engineering, invention.
Oh, far beyond. Into the breathtaking realm of engineering and invention, his notebooks are quite literally filled with visionary designs. Designs that often seem like they belong to a much later era, centuries ahead of his time sometimes.
Like what? The famous stuff.
We're talking designs for flying machines, parachutes, tank-like armored vehicles, complex portable bridges, intricate hydraulic systems, for everything from managing water to powering machines.
Okay, the flying machine. The ornithopter. Did he really think that could work?
His ornithopter designs, some of the most famous ones, weren't based on fantasy. They were based on rigorous, almost obsessive study of bird flight.
Back to observing nature.
Always. He meticulously analyzed how birds used their wings for lift and propulsion. He was understanding principles of aerodynamics and mechanical leverage long before those terms even existed.
But could they have flown?
Probably not. His designs weren't direct precursors to modern fixed-wing aircraft, and they definitely couldn't have flown with the materials and power sources available in his day. But they demonstrated incredible foresight into the challenges of flight and the foundational principles of engineering needed.
Okay, what about the tank? He designed a tank.
Essentially, yes, an armored vehicle design. An early prototype of modern tanks, circular, propelled by cranks, equipped with multiple cannons pointing outwards.
Wow. What was that for?
It reflected his interest in military technology, how mechanical principles could be applied to warfare, an exploration of power and defense, probably for potential patrons like Ludovico Sforza in Milan.
And hydraulic systems. That sounds more practical.
Very practical. Designs for water channels, dams, locks. He was deeply interested in managing water. These prefigured the immense importance of water management in urban planning and civil engineering. He was trying to solve real-world problems like flood control for the Arno River in Florence.
So a lot of these inventions, they couldn't actually be built then.
Many couldn't, no. Not with the technology or materials available in his era. They existed primarily as theoretical concepts on paper, brilliant ideas awaiting technological advancement.
But did they influence later inventors?
It's hard to draw direct lines sometimes because the notebooks weren't widely known for so long. However, the sheer brilliance of his ideas, once known, certainly inspired later developments in mechanical principles and engineering design.
Any examples?
For instance, his pioneering studies of flight and his designs, while not immediately practical, are often cited as indirectly influencing 19th century aviation pioneers, people who were also grappling with the fundamental challenges of getting off the ground. His notebooks became this source of intellectual nourishment and wonder for subsequent generations of engineers and scientists once they became accessible, proof that these things were conceivable.
Okay, let's unpack this further. Because his genius wasn't just about big machines or anatomy, it extended down to the very nature of light and vision, an area that really profoundly connects his art and science, doesn't it?
Absolutely, it's a perfect bridge. Leonardo spent considerable time developing optical theories, studying the fundamental nature of light, how it travels, how we perceive it, and how that relates to perspective in painting.
So this sfumato we talked about with Mona Lisa.
It wasn't just an aesthetic choice exactly. It was a direct result of his deep effort to accurately depict the subtle, almost intangible effect of light on objects, the way it diffuses, the way it blurs contours in the real world.
He realized things aren't outlined in black.
Precisely. He understood that vision isn't about sharp, defined lines, but about the way light interacts with surfaces, creating these soft gradations. He wrote extensively about how light falls, how it reflects, how it creates shadows. He studied shadows intensely.
And he even studied the eye itself.
He did. He delved into understanding how the eye works, trying to unravel the complex mechanics of human vision. He even went so far as to dissect ox eyes to understand their structure and how the lens forms an image.
Wow. And the camera obscura, how does that fit in?
His research also included exploring the principles of the camera obscura. That's literally a darkened room or box with a tiny hole. Light from outside passes through the hole and projects an inverted image of the external scene onto the opposite surface inside.
Like a primitive camera.
Exactly. It was a crucial tool and concept for understanding optics, the nature of light, and image formation, a definite precursor to modern photography.
So what was the impact of all this optical study?
Again, like much of his science, not immediate inventions during his lifetime. But his work was profoundly insightful. It was an early precursor to ideas that would much, much later form the basis of modern technologies like photography and even cinema in terms of understanding image projection and light.
Okay, let's unpack this.
Yeah.
He wasn't just sketching cool gadgets or painting beautiful portraits. He was digging into the fundamental laws of physics and biology, like centuries ahead of his time, all driven by this unified vision of understanding the world and how we perceive it.
That's it, exactly, a unified vision.
And this leads us, I think, to maybe the most profound aspect of Leonardo's genius, which is his underlying philosophy, his worldview. Now, he isn't considered a philosopher in the traditional sense, right? He didn't write formal treatises on ethics or metaphysics.
No, not like Plato or Aristotle.
But his life's work, and especially those thousands of notebook pages, they reveal this profoundly consistent humanist worldview, a philosophical outlook that seems to underpin absolutely everything he did.
What's truly fascinating here is how deeply Leonardo's work reflects that core Renaissance principle of man as the center of the universe.
Which sounds a bit arrogant, maybe.
But it wasn't really about human arrogance. It was more about recognizing humanity's inherent potential for creativity, understanding, exploration, dignity. He saw the human body, think back to the Vitruvian man, not just as a biological machine, but as this perfect miniature reflection of the cosmos, embodying universal mathematical and proportional harmony.
Okay, and his view of nature.
For Leonardo, nature wasn't just a subject for study or a nice backdrop for his paintings. It was the ultimate teacher. the primal source of all knowledge and truth.
You see that in his notes.
Absolutely. He firmly believed that everything in the universe, from the flight of a bird to the flow of water, from the intricate workings of the human heart to the subtle play of light on a face, was profoundly interconnected, all part of a single, grand, understandable design.
And that was the philosophy that tied his art and science together.
Precisely. That unifying philosophy truly bound his scientific and artistic work. He didn't see art as separate from science. They were like two sides of the same coin, both serving to deepen our understanding and appreciation of the natural world.
He has quotes about that, doesn't he?
Oh yeah, his notebooks are filled with aphorisms and observations that powerfully underscore this belief. He famously wrote, "Observe nature because it is your best teacher."
Simple but profound.
And another one, "Experience is the sole interpreter of nature." These aren't just poetic sentiments, they're direct articulations of his unwavering commitment to empirical science. Learning through direct observation, meticulous experimentation, personal experience, rather than just relying on ancient texts or established dogma.
Question everything. See for yourself.
Exactly. This approach, rigorous observation, systematic documentation, constantly questioning assumptions, makes him a true precursor to the modern scientific method. Laying that intellectual groundwork centuries before it was formally established by figures like Bacon or Galileo, he demonstrated how a deep, active engagement with the world around us is the key to unlocking its secrets.
So what does this all mean for you, the learner, listening today? It means Leonardo isn't just some historical figure stuck in textbooks. He's really a living inspiration for curiosity and, importantly, integrated thinking. His enduring legacy is just monumental. It spans across disciplines, and it continues to resonate in our modern world in countless ways. Let's start with art.
Okay.
In the artistic realm, his techniques, fumato, chiaroscuro, his revolutionary use of perspective, they didn't just add new tools to the artist's toolkit. They completely transformed Western art. Full stop.
They really set a new standard.
They allowed for unprecedented realism, emotional depth, atmospheric quality. And they profoundly inspired the next wave of masters, people like Michelangelo and Raphael. They shaped the course of the High Renaissance and really all Western art that followed. His approach to light and shadow became fundamental.
And beyond art, as a scientific pioneer, monumental. His meticulous notebooks, filled with those thousands of pages of observations, experiments, detailed drawings, they highlighted the profound importance of scientific observation and empirical methods.
Seeing is believing, or rather, understanding.
Right. His anatomical studies, as we discussed, directly influenced 16th century medical studies, even if indirectly at first. They provided visual accuracy that was just unmatched by anything preceding them. Figures like Andreas Vesalius, often called the father of modern human anatomy, his work built on that kind of detailed observation Leonardo pioneered.
So Vesalius might have seen some of Leo's drawings.
It's possible, or at least the approach, the level of detail set a new benchmark. Leonardo pushed humanity to look at the world not just with inherited knowledge, but with their own eyes and a critical, questioning mind, laying some of the very foundations of modern scientific inquiry.
And then there's his truly astounding technological foresight. We talked about the inventions.
Yeah, the designs for flying machines, tanks, hydraulic systems, though far ahead of their time and mostly unrealized in his lifetime due to technological limits, they were not just flights of fancy.
Based on real principles.
Deep understanding of mechanical principles and natural phenomena. These visionary concepts, even indirectly, inspired 19th and 20th century technological developments, pushing the boundaries of engineering. It's truly remarkable to think that his detailed studies of bird flight could have influenced aviation pioneers like the Wright brothers decades later as they tackled the same problems.
He was sketching futures that others would eventually build, like blueprints for things that seemed impossible in his own age.
Absolutely. And culturally, Leonardo has become far more than just an individual genius. He represents the very ideal of the Renaissance universal man, the uomo universale.
The ultimate multitasker.
Ah, well, yes, symbolizing the boundless potential of human knowledge and creativity when curiosity is allowed to flourish across all fields. His works, like the Mona Lisa and the Last Supper, they've transcended the art world. They're universal symbols, instantly recognizable in popular culture, speaking to something fundamental about human experience and the endless pursuit of knowledge. He is, for many, the ultimate symbol of human ingenuity.
And for anyone who seeks to learn and innovate today, his life and his codices, they remain this incredible source of inspiration, don't they?
Totally. Modern engineers, artists, scientists, people continue to study his notebooks, not just for historical context, but for actual insights into problems he tackled and the unique ways he approached solutions.
That interdisciplinary approach.
Exactly. The seamless integration of art and science, observation and imagination that's now recognized as a fundamental principle of modern innovation and creativity. He reminds us that the biggest breakthroughs often come when we connect seemingly disparate ideas, when we look beyond the artificial boundaries of our disciplines.
Okay, but let's bring him down to earth a little bit too.
Yeah.
Because even a genius like Leonardo had his complexities, maybe what some might call deficiencies or imperfections.
This raises an important question, yeah. It's easy to put him on a pedestal, but understanding his human dimensions makes his genius, I think, even more compelling.
So what were some of these? We mentioned the unfinished projects.
Right. His relentless perfectionism, while leading to that unparalleled quality in his completed works, also resulted in a large number of unfinished ones. The colossal bronze horse statue, the Sforza monument in Milan, he labored on it for years, created that monumental clay model, but it was never completed.
Partly circumstances, but also him.
It was partly the bronze being needed for cannons, yes, but arguably also his own exhaustive drive for perfection that maybe made definitive completion elusive for him. He seemed to struggle to declare a work truly finished, always seeing ways to improve or change it.
Right. And it wasn't just the Sforza horse. You mentioned many of his incredible inventions and scientific ideas.
Yeah.
They just weren't understood or couldn't be built.
Exactly. While groundbreaking and meticulously detailed in his notebooks, they were often simply not understood by his contemporaries. Or they were technologically unfeasible with the materials and engineering capabilities of the 15th and 16th centuries.
Yeah, imagine trying to explain an ornithopter or a tank back then.
Right. He was truly a man out of time in many respects, which speaks to his visionary capability, but maybe also to the isolation that can come with thinking so far ahead. His patrons, like the Sforzas or later the French king, often grew frustrated with his slow pace and his tendency to get distracted by new intellectual challenges.
He'd wander off onto a new problem.
Seems like it. And then there's his private life, which remains shrouded in a certain amount of mystery.
We know about his illegitimacy.
Yes, that certainly set him apart from societal norms. But beyond that, there's limited concrete information about his personal relationships, his inner thoughts, beyond what we can glean from his very work-focused notebooks.
Not much personal stuff in there.
Not a huge amount, no. This lack of detailed biographical insight into his inner world has definitely contributed to his enduring, mysterious persona.
But does that diminish him?
Not at all, I'd say. This very mystery, these perceived imperfections, the unanswered questions about his personal life, they don't diminish his genius. On the contrary, they add this rich human dimension. They remind us that even the most extraordinary minds are complex individuals with their own struggles, their own limitations, their own unanswered questions. It makes his achievements, I think, all the more remarkable.
What a journey. We've really seen how Leonardo da Vinci was so much more than just a master artist. He was a groundbreaking scientist, an imaginative inventor, and a philosopher who saw these profound connections between absolutely everything in the universe. He was just a force of nature, really. A mind that spanned disciplines with unparalleled grace and insight, a true uomo universal.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, I think Leonardo teaches us something really valuable. That the greatest leaps in human understanding, they often come from breaking down those walls we build between disciplines.
Yeah.
His life reminds us that true innovation lies in the limitless potential of human creativity, especially when it's fueled by relentless curiosity and that meticulous empirical observation he championed. He wasn't just a polymath, he was a pioneer in integrated thinking, an approach that is arguably more relevant than ever in our complex, specialized world today.
So here's a final thought for you listening to mull over. In a world that often pushes us towards increasing specialization, where expertise gets defined more and more narrowly, what walls could you potentially break down in your own field, or maybe in your own interests, by embracing Leonardo's spirit of interconnected curiosity and fearless exploration?